Hi, everybody. This is the SEBA call for November 6th, 2018. We have two items on the agenda. One is a Juror review, and the other one is I'd just like to mention the image format change for the Helm charts. So I'm going to actually do the second one first because I think it'll go really quickly. So there's a change that happened a while ago to the XOS charts, but we're going to implement that across to the rest of the Helm charts for Volta and various other components like Onos. Basically, what this does is it changes the way that you specify an image rather than as one large chunk. It splits it out into different variables. This is really only pertinent if you are running a long-running a pod and you have a values file that you're overwriting these variables. The format you'll have to change on that. This has been announced and will be merged on Thursday. So that's that. Also, I wanted to know: are there any other?
Can you show the list of ones you're merging?
I
saw that.
Yeah, it's in Garrett. It's there's a link in the email I sent. It's 11314. So it's basically everything else in the Helm charts repo. So abstract OLT, the Maven repo, Onos, PonSim, Vez Agent, some of the storage charts, and Volta.
Okay, cool. And you're going to do this Thursday?
I'll be doing this Thursday. The other thing it lets you do is it lets you globally set the Docker registry that you can pull from,
right,
which is helpful for the offline install.
So instead of my values YAML file being 10 pages long, it
right,
override.
So this is only applied to the current master or the 1.5 release, right? For the at least on the Volta side.
Volta doesn't have an official Helm chart other than what we have in the SEBA repo. If the Volta community would like to, actually, this was something I mentioned last week. If the Volta community would like to come up with a chart that's more full-featured that also could be used with SEBA, that would be useful. But I'm not sure if that's where that is on the priority for Volta.
Probably not right now, but at the same time, I think that's something we need to go forward. Okay, so okay.
Okay.
The biggest one of the biggest advantage in this change is that, as Zach said, is that you can specify just once the register, optionally the register you want to use. So let's assume you want to install everything offline and you push all your images to the pod. You won't have to go. You won't have to specify anymore image by image, saying, specifying the name of the image.
I'm getting a little bit of an audio cutout. I'm not sure whether it's my end or
by the just.
It's a little bit hard, I guess. It's just, maybe the room has echo or something like that, so it's a little bit harder to understand. But
sorry, can you guys hear me better?
Yeah, it's better now.
Hello. Okay. What mic are we using? So I was just saying that one of the main benefits of this change, as Zach pointed out, is that before, when you wanted to do an offline installation or anyway use a local registry, you had to specify image by image. You had to prefix all the images when you were overriding the values.yaml files with the IP column part of the registry. With this change, what you can do is to specify only one variable. So you you just say global registry and you put just once the IP of the registry, and and that will do the trick. Will automatically make possible to look for images in the local registry instead of pulling them from Docker. Sorry, maybe it was kind of confusing, but for who did it already, I think they have a good idea of what I'm talking about.
Yeah, this would simplify Helm-based deployments, even if you're not doing a SEBA deployment. I think that's probably the key here, is that the Helm charge repo is really kind of global to all things. You know, I would even say O and F. It's like the repo for anything and everything. And whether you use Volta, Ono, SEBA, XOS, or just Volta, having stuff like this be standardized and cleaned up makes it easier for folks to mix and match things a little more easily.
Yeah, that's another big benefit as well, for sure.
Okay, great. We'll probably merge this sometime middle of the day on Thursday. Are there any other comments, or can we move on?
Does it mean that, yes, Prakash here, I would like to know if we have a Kubernetes cluster and Helm installed already, we can use this directly, or is it dependent on the Helm version or something?
Any recent version of Helm should be able to load these charts. If I think we're using 2.10, I've tested with 2.11, so if you're using a recent version, it should work fine.
I've used 2.9, so yeah, I think we're good.
And does it also depend on anything on Kubernetes cluster? Does it have to be 1.1.2, or it can be older ones?
We're testing on 1.10.
Run it with 1.10.
1.1. Okay, thanks. That helps.
Kubernetes, yeah, and Calico. But that shouldn't matter. It should just be any available networkable Kubernetes. One instance or more should be just fine.
Okay, then I'm going to move on to the next item, which is the Juror review. I think first we can talk about things that we did since the last review, which was on the 16th of October. I think that starts with Andy.
Okay, so the first one, the ONU not enabled after wrong whitelist port corrected. This was a bug that Kailash's tests on SEBA in a box revealed. That was fixed. I created a Helm chart for abstract OLT. I know that Don has been working on that, and I think maybe I owe him a review on some recent changes, but there is a base abstract OLT chart that can be used. The third bug is there was an issue with the Kafka app in Onos not always initializing correctly. I submitted a fix and it was merged. I believe it's been resolved. I haven't seen the problem recently, but I'll keep an eye on it to make sure that doesn't continue to happen.
Yeah, I had seen that one all the time. Yeah, if that's fixed, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay. Is Charles on?
No, but I can take it. It's basically, we have to enable that AG switch to external BNG connection with lags and LACP. And this particular story is really just about ONOS being able to handle LACP packets, build the serializer, deserializer for it.
Okay, thanks, Saurav. Don, you had some items?
I do. So the first one, reflow. So this is to solve the case where the whole SEBA pod goes down and has to be rebuilt. So abstract OLT can pull the backup from either Mongo or from a local drive, wherever, and and it'll actually just iterate through everything and reflow all the XOS to rebuild the entire whatever was there before the catastrophe. Just a single push button to, you know, like if you were going to try to bring something up in a site that just went underwater or whatever.
You boxed up your entire environment and trucked it to a CO and then unboxed it. Which
Right,
is
yeah.
happening recently, yes.
So it follows on the next one, which is it should recover state on reboot. So that one's finished. It has, I didn't do the Mongo one. Anyway, the current state is it can either write its configuration to the local drive, or it will store it in MongoDB. It does it. I think it checks every 30 seconds to see if its current configuration is dirty, and it pushes the configuration if it is. Pretty straightforward. Slim down what it looks like, so all the stuff that can be figured out programmatically is suppressed from the actual backup file. Only we actually provision things show up in the JSON. And then the following one is kind of the end game AT&T wants to get to is instead of abstract OLT executing the algorithm to determine SNC tags, NAS port IDs, circuit IDs, they will just push that in a provisioning event. So this one was almost no work, just pushing the stuff instead of deriving it.
Okay, thank you, Don. Matteo?
So the first one, SEBA 311, was a bug that you reported when we were receiving or disabling an ONU because it was not in the whitelist. The state change was not reflected down in Volta, and that has been fixed. While SEBA 293, it's a patch across the stack that enable to publish switch statistics into Prometheus and Grafana.
Matteo, the 311 is applied to all the ONUs or only one specific ONU?
No, it was a bug in the code. So in a certain case, the status change that was triggered by a change in the whitelist was not propagated down in Volta. So it was for all.
Okay.
Thank you, Matteo. 310 is a duplicate. We had two epics made for the offline install. So we have, that's not finished, so the other one isn't finished, so we'll see that when we look at the current tickets. Scott?
Yeah, so the first one here, 329, that was document usage of the gRPC API. So there's now a short tutorial page in the cord guide, which explains how to use the gRPC API, how to get the appropriate certificate to use with it, how to convert xproto into protobufs, and walks you through an example of that. So if people want, they can try that instead of Tosca. Tosca engine behavior unpredictable if executing two recipes. This was only observed to occur once, but looking at it, it looked like what possibly happened was two recipes hit at the same time, and it created a temp file that had the same name, so one of them clobbered the other. So I modified it to randomize the temp file names, so that cannot happen. XOS should be able to output a subset of protobuf. So one of the criticisms we had in prior releases was that the protobuf file, because it includes all services and the core, is very large and yields a very large stub file. So we've added options to XOS Gen X to allow you to filter that down to just the methods or apps that you want. The next one, investigate ONU statistics. So this has been going on for a while, and this was looking at getting ONU statistics plumbed through from the Broadcom ONU device all the way into Prometheus. So that plumbing is now done, although it did pop up a few bugs that are ongoing regarding reliability and correctness of the numbers. Differentiate between Ethernet Bridgeport history KPIs. So there was the KPI that I used for the ONU statistic item. There were two of them emitted, one for upstream and one for downstream, though it did not have anything in the KPI itself that indicated which it was. So I added some context there to specify upstream or downstream and which port it is attached to. Add ONU metrics to Broadcom Open OMCI ONU. So the ONU metrics were not supported in the Broadcom Open OMCI ONU, so I added that, basically following the same example that was done for the Adtran ONU. Downstream Ethernet frame extended PM returns upstream data. So those two KPIs that I mentioned in SEBA 320, one was for up and one was for down. But there was a bug in Volta that was setting the wrong bit in the performance collector when it was created, and they were both returning upstream data. So I fixed that bug. I think that's it.
Thanks, Scott. Chad? Is Chad on the call?
Yeah.
I
haven't read this.
This is the packet in. This is the packet in reporting the uni port instead of the NNI port. Remember, you fixed this.
That was fixed, yeah.
Yeah. So
this is fixed, yeah. Sorry, I lost the context here.
yeah, packet in the OpenOLT adapter
was reporting the wrong port information.
Yeah, the packet was coming from the NNI port, but it was reporting the uni port, so that got fixed.
This was quite some time back, yeah.
Okay.
This.
Thanks, Chad. Is you on?
Yeah. So 277 is the bug that we are only seeing on Blackspot, and it turned out that it's because of the NIC card on the DHCP server, which will modify the packet format when the packet leaves the server. So that's fixed now. And 285 is it's been there. So the test has been there for weeks and it's stable. So basically, we're running the same set of tests on the Onu, also SEBA in the box. The results are stable. So 308 is also done a while ago. So we are saving container logs after each test case. So if you go to the test results, the robot results, you can easily see the logs of the containers specific to that test case. That's it.
Thanks, you. The next few items are mine. SEBA 156 and 157 were to implement functionality so that logs from Onus and Volta would be sent to Elasticstack. So the process for this is, in the Onus case, there's a sidecar container that runs that reads off the log messages that are saved to a file and uses a file beat to take those in JSON format and publish them on onus.logs topic in Kafka, and then they're read off by the standard log stash mechanism into Elasticsearch. And that worked fairly well for the Onus ones. There were some issues with multi-line things not giving back correct JSON, but until we get a true JSON output format in Onus, there's not really a way around that. But for the time being, it seems good enough. The Volta ones, they're also related to this other item, 315, which is so Python has a logging library called structlog. We created a while ago in XOS something called Kafka Log Handler, which takes log messages, formats them as JSON, and publishes them on the Kafka bus. and lets you do full structured logging and do things like change the keys and the topic and squash data down or flatten data out of DICs into individual items. That was extracted from XOS, turned into a module that is published on PyPy, and also tests were written, and the testing framework was improved to support testing with TOX, so Python 2 and Python 3 compatible. Then that was imported into Volta, and some configuration was done to allow Volta to have an external file specific for logging configuration, and that patch was merged. Currently, there is a problem we're running into where the size of the queue gets exceeded because Volta is a very noisy logger. So that's something I'm currently working on. And SEBA 327 was an issue with a difference between the standard library and the struct log library, how they function, and that was also resolved. SEBA 3 was just administrative tasks like setting up the Juror and those sorts of things, and we finished those long ago, so I closed that out. So that's it for me. There's a few items that were completed but unassigned. Matteo, did you have something to say about 197?
Yeah, 197 I think it happened like 3 months ago. I think that someone forgot to close it. Basically, at a certain point, we were specifying all the Onus application for the different profiles into the Onus service Helm chart, but that was kind of cumbersome. So we just decided to move those guys to the various profiles.
Okay, thanks, Matteo. And last one is Andy, 323.
That's probably a duplicate of 311.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. Alrighty. In the future, let's try to mark these as dupes so that we can, so that it's more obvious. Okay. So that's everything that we've completed, at least per Jira, in here. If we want to move on, I know that Saurav has changed some priorities for the December release. We have 42 items in the backlog set for December. A lot of these are related to the Volta Stability epic that's new. So one of the things we found during the BVWF demo and other feedback we've had has been just that Volta has had various issues with high CPU usage, or slowing down, or having very verbose or not incredibly useful logs, and basically I'm trying to make the Volta 1. Release we're using in SEBA more robust. So I think that's this epic here. Did people want to talk about each of the tasks that's ongoing, or do we want to look at just ones that are currently in progress?
Yeah, I mean, I can give some overview. Basically, at BBWF, it was probably the first time that we had 5 physical OLTs on multiple adapters connected to Volta, and about 8 different ONUs connected to those OLTs, also using multiple adapters. And what there were some things that we had just seen for the first time, and that led to us saying that we need to focus on getting to the bottom of these issues, right? So for one thing, we noticed at various times CPU usage could be anywhere from 100 to 300%, and would stay there. So that's obviously not where we want to be. I mean, I say 5 OLTs and 8 ONUs, but really that's not really a lot of scale. So there is some issue somewhere that we are investigating right now, see where that high CPU utilization is coming from. We also noticed that running demos through the day, events that would happen faster in the morning would actually start slowing down through the course of the day. So that's another thing that we need to investigate, why things are slowing down, maybe even becoming unusable overnight. And so we have our friends from Netsia Gela who are going to help us investigate that. So CERCAP is listed here, but I'm sure there's others going to be helping him. And logging cleanup, that's something that Zach has already mentioned. As you know, one of our ideas, actually Bora also mentioned it yesterday, is that when you have hundreds of customers on a SEBA pod and something is going wrong for one of these customers, you need to be able to track vertically through the stack what's happening to that particular customer. And one good way to do that is to have the system tell you what's happening to it, but there's always going to be times when there is some lack of instrumentation in the system and you need to go to the logs to figure out what's going on. Well, we have 3 pieces of software over here. So if all the logs are collected in one place, which is what Elasticsearch lets us do, then you can use Kibana and Elasticsearch to pinpoint what's going on in the logs for that particular customer. But in order to do that, we have to get all these logs in some meaningful way into the NEM monitoring platform, Elasticsearch. And so Zach started doing that work, but found that it takes only about half an hour for Volta to spit out about 50,000 lines of logs. And at around 100,000, it basically just stops accepting more log messages. So we have to work on Volta to move a lot of the logs, repeated logs, into sort of trace level and clean up the logging so that actually it's not as verbose and it's actually useful and something that we can see in Elasticsearch and use Kibana on it. So that's a major work that Zach has taken up, and we all have to work together with Zach to clean up logging in Volta. We also have some performance issues. It seems like when we do things in parallel, some things succeed and some things don't. And we are also investigating that. And part of that job is to actually use BBSIM to reproduce it and then investigate where things are breaking down because of things being done in parallel. HCD cluster install. Andy, you can probably talk more about this better than I can. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Volta depends on etcd cluster running, and we've observed when installing Volta so it installs etcd cluster as a dependency, but a fair amount of time that doesn't work out for some reason. etcd cluster comes up in a bad state, and then Volta won't work. So Matt Jeanneret has a etcd cluster chart that he has been working on, and I want to evaluate if that helps with this particular problem.
Yeah, I found just quickly that etcd operator 0.7.7, which is what's currently indicated as a requirement in the Volta chart, has a bug in it that ultimately makes its way back to the BusyBox image that's used to verify cluster members are up and do DNS lookups. And that was fixed in 0.9 something. I've been using 0.9.2 of etcd operator and version 3.2.18 of etcd itself, which matches what Kubernetes uses. And I haven't had any problems with it since then, though we've never run more than, I think, 4 or 5 ONUs on it.
Okay, thanks, Matt and Andy.
Hey, just a quick question on some of the performance issues. Is it known whether the performance issue is related to the Volta core or the adapter, or that's still under investigation right now, I guess?
Yeah, it's still under investigation. We don't really know right now where the problem is. and unless we go through it systematically, I don't really want to guess where the problem could be.
But one of the things, when on the VOLTA 2.0, they're proposing the new Golang core, right? So, do you think? I guess that you're still under investigation. Is the potentially 2.0 with the different based core will help some of the issue here? And the other thing, on the CPU utilization. Of course, you only have the one instant of the OpenOLT adapter, and then with multiple ONU, multiple OLT and ONU should not increase in that high level. And so I wonder whether, of course, I think the fundamental issue probably will not be resolved even if we have the high availability multiple, on the ONU adapter, OLT adapter portion. So
yeah, that's true. It's really not that much scale, so there is actually no reason for it to be at that much CPU usage, and so we really have to dig down and see where the problem is, and we may even find that we have to get to the bottom of this, because you never know, right? VOLTA 2.0 could show up and have exactly the same problem, and unless we get to the bottom of where this is, just moving to 2.0 may or may not solve it. And the same goes for the performance issues, right? And unless we can tell where it's actually going on, maybe the new code will help, or maybe it won't. So it's just an investigation that we have to go through.
So,
true.
Kind
but
of
at the same time, sorry?
Kind of answer to your question, we don't think it's a language limitation. So moving from Python to Go won't automatically solve the issue. We need to figure out what is causing the problem.
Yeah, and just to add to this, it's not necessarily scaling that's causing the base problem, because even with a single PON-SIM adapter, we're still getting 100% CPU utilization. So it seems like there's some bug either in the core or in the adapter that is causing these high utilizations.
I see. Sorry?
I was going to say, it's probably, again, worth investigating, certainly. I haven't run PON-SIM in our environment here, but we have been running the newer etcd cluster and VOLTA 1.5 for quite a while. Actually, in one of my setups, we've had it running for like 40 days. The CPU for the VOLTA process doesn't get any higher than any of the other ones, Kubelet or Docker, or any of the other kind of just background ones as well. So I'm really curious about if it's an adapter thing, if an adapter brings its own issues, or if it's an etcd thing. But in my testing, always with one OLT, that's always been the most we've tried. One OLT, 4 ONUs for about a week. I looked at it just the other day, and it hasn't had any higher CPU than you would expect.
So the other thing we've noticed is that the CPU utilization will drop after some period of time, which I haven't quantified yet, but an experiment running after a few hours, the CPU utilization went down to about 10% on the vCore process. So it was only 100% for the first hour or two, but still looking in to try to figure out what the trend is on that.
I do remember
Matt, one question. When you do this long-running experiment, do you operate VOLTA, or you just let it sit there and verify that traffic keeps flowing?
Well, for the one that's been running for 40 days, generally I leave it alone. The one there's another one I've had for about a week and a half, or maybe less. It doesn't do a whole lot. I get into the CLI and look around, but I don't do any additional provisioning, adding or removing or anything like that. So it's not active in the provisioning sense.
Yeah, so bottom line is that, we've seen it, and we've seen it multiple times now, and we need to get to the root of it. I don't know if it's something that over time it gets into that state, or is it because just we have more devices on the system and somehow it gets into that state? But it's not a good place to be in, and so we just have to get to the bottom of it.
And I agree, there's something there. I think we all kind of run it maybe a little bit differently, and quantifying it, I agree, would be a good thing to do.
One thing is, Julie, I don't know what you remember, the high CPU utilization. I do remember the Volta has a ticket open on that one. But that was in the mostly a 1.2 or 1.3 time frame. I think some of the issue, on the Volta community has seen this one too. So, of course, the log cleaning up, and then that's the log management was also in Volta. Oh, one thing I'm wondering whether we should pour these tickets into the Volta community also.
I mean, if that helps you, sure. I want to keep it here because it's easier for us to track on the SEBA level.
Sure.
For a SEBA release in December, I want to get these issues solved. And if it helps you, you can make clones of these in the Volta Jira board.
Okay. Okay. So let's deal with what it wants to final cost, and then how do we port from 1.x to 2.0 if that's adapter or if that's something. We can think about that later.
Okay. I think the last thing in this list was the integration testing with.
Yeah, so, I can speak of this. So this is important that we don't continue to regress issues on Volta. So there's an automation framework that just got committed and merged in Volta that does some quick sanity testing inside Volta and making sure. So it's reliant on PonSim and ONUS obviously, and make sure that the logical devices get appeared, and you can do simple things like enabling device and disabling device. But the key here is that we are wanting to build a job that runs on a per commit basis, so that it builds these images locally, deploys it, and running the test. We can also, we're also planning on expanding the test coverage, but at this level, it's important so we don't regress fundamental issues on Volta core. So I'm working with some engineers from NorthForge to get this job running. We're still working out, building out these local Volta images, but the job and everything seems to be set up. The test is running. The test framework looks fine. We committed it yesterday, so this is in progress, and hopefully we'll get it all resolved soon, so we can have some level of sanity testing.
So to clarify, this is an integration test with Volta and PonSim that you want to run as an acceptance test for new patches that come on the Volta branch, or on the,
yes.
The Volta.
When I created this ticket, I wanted to integrate it with SEBA, so that we can also invoke our SEBA automation test that we've already written with this, but I'm prioritizing getting the Volta test and just testing at the Volta level right now first, and getting that going so that we can test Volta in isolation and not tie it with SEBA or any specific workflow. So I'll add a comment on that and modify this Jira.
Okay, thank you, Kailash. If we go back and we look at all the issues we have, that really went over the stability ones. There's also some. Yes.
So yeah. So like I said, we went over the stability ones, and the next two items that you see over this, it says scale testing with BBSIM. It's really about using BBSIM and fixing BBSIM. Using BBSIM to do this performance measurements that we want to do systematically to see where things are breaking down. And BBSIM itself needs some fixing because it doesn't quite use the OpenOLT. It uses clones of the OpenOLT and OpenOMCI adapters, but we need to move it back to truly using the OpenOLT and OMCI adapters, which means having to be able to respond to OMCI messages that the adapter is sending. So Matt, we might reach out to you for some more help as Shad explores how BeamSync can move back to doing what it should be doing. Not creating its own adapters, but just using the existing adapters.
Okay. I know last time we talked about this a few weeks ago as well. Chip
I know, yeah, but for BBWF, we didn't quite have the time to do that. Now we really want to do it.
Agreed. Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. If you go back to the all issues, so you can see that they are listed in terms of priorities. All the red arrows are the high priority items. So we've talked about the issues that we want to fix with Volta before the release. And then the rest of them are really just bugs and maintenance things that we want to get through in various different parts, different epics. Okay, and these have been there for a while. It's just one of the high priority items. And then beyond the high priority items are the medium priority items where work is already ongoing, whether it's use of lag and LACP or the automation of tests, things that are happening in abstract OLT. These have all, they're already been, and AirCap pod, which is what we call offline installs. So these are all happening in parallel. There are multiple people working from it. One thing I did want to point out is that, so Sean had asked for this Radius server accounting, and right now it's listed under you, Prakash. Are you actually working on this particular story or any other story on this on this Jira board? Prakash, can you hear us? Is he still on? He's on.
So initially I started with Redfish, but then I found we don't have a pod and we needed a bomb to be certified. So I'm working currently on in our lab trying to establish that setup, and so we have allocated few servers and trying to see if we can bring that up. So I'm not in the Jira participating in anything as yet, but definitely trying to build. That's why I asked questions regarding which of the committed version should I pick up from for the Helm. It appears the one which will come Thursday is the best one. So by the time my Helm, I will just make sure it is 2.10 or 11, and so I'll start working on getting a stand-up based on what we have in the lab before I can jump to the testing, which is end-to-end, which you have. I saw from SEBA 336 and 337, which you are working on. So I don't know how do I put myself into this Jira without having been part for very long. Only few months I have observed, and so I think more likely I will join after December to participate. But at this time I'm focused on getting a pod ready so that we can test it and then we can open it for everybody in COD people to use for the Jira and etc. So still I am attempting, I'm not there. So
okay, so once you have your pod ready, what story did you say you were going to work? Is it the Redfish one or this Radius one or something else?
So that's why I said no, before having the working pod, I am not able to take up anything. So that's the reason I am stuck right now. I'm trying to expedite that. Do have a target of get this by December 4, 5, 6. So whatever release best you can bring, I will try to bring it on board. So Radius as well as Redfish, we'll have to wait. I don't think I can do anything before December.
SEBA in a box? Have you attempted SEBA in a box? Because
yeah, SEBA in a box is what I'm attempting. So in the attempt, what I ran into issues, some of the issues, I'll probably circulate and get clarification. I ran into some of the NIC issues, some of the what you call access issues, installing the based on what the document is, the Kubernetes document. I'm just going to update what I found. So probably I'll edit those and say this is what I found. Some of the gotchas, like where I got stuck.
okay.
So we are trying to participate, but at this time I know the level is low. Wish we had joined earlier, but that's the fact of life right now.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, so any help that you need, do please ask on the mailing list or reach out to Andy so we can get you started on the pod sooner rather
Thanks
than.
for that. Thanks for that. I'll immediately following the meeting, I'll just send out what I have been doing and what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah,
Thanks.
please do, and I'll try to help you out. I think Slack was probably the best place to make contact.
Okay, I have Slack channel and a Slack for SEBA, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the open core Slack. Yes.
Okay, I'll join that. I think I'm there, but I have not put the questions there. I'll do that.
And Zach, I don't see Jason on, but do you have any update on the Redfish work?
He updated with and moved this to in progress. I think he's working on making this microservice. I'll follow up with him and see what the status is. But there's a new design document that he published that looked good. But I'll see where he stands with that.
So with respect to that, which of the postings you are going to take? So if you have a daemon, Redfish daemon, which is pulling out from the fabric, does it post to the NEM, or the Volta and aggregator switches, they are all differently routed through Kafka?
So I don't think we've decided on a Kafka topic for these Redfish items, whether that's going to be split up based on the name of the device. I mean, we could have a Redfish top level and then other items. Let's bring that up with Jason and see, because that's a pretty simple design thing. We already have ONU events and other things like that. It might be Redfish events, and then we put everything under that, or we might slice it based on the type of device.
Okay, thank you.
So if we put everything under a single topic with the same format, then it's much easier to export them to Prometheus and Grafana.
Okay, yeah. I don't think we've gotten in the design that far even. So I'll pursue this with Jason, and we'll get this figured out. Thanks, Mateo.
Sure.
Saurav, did you have other things on this list?
I just so beyond the orange, which is medium priority, there's a bunch of things that are tagged as lower priority. Some of them are features, some of them are maintenance issues, and they just take a backseat to the more important things that we have found after the BBWF demo, which have been listed as higher priority. So that's
operational status of HCP relay. That was to keep track of the various states of the state machine.
I believe so. Actually, this one may actually be done.
Yeah.
It's also got statistics.
Well, what does it mean, statistics?
How many acts you got, how many requests you got, etc. So I mean, Mike Gasser has a long list of things.
Probably count them
in a separate
Elasticstack. I mean, we have the data in Elasticstack, so we'll be able to get the statistics we want.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's just like I said, it's a little bit lower priority for the things that are obviously giving us problems. So that's all I wanted to point out, sir.
Okay. I think we've made it through the backlog here. Are there any other things? I mean, we could look at slice and dice this in different ways and see what's in progress and various other what isn't assigned to anyone. So, for example, we don't have any that are. We have a few items that are unassigned. So, for example, the backup and restore pod components is high priority but hasn't been assigned to anyone. But I think we're fairly through with in Jira. Are there any other items that people would like to bring the group's attention to? Okay. Well, I'm going to call the meeting then. Thank you all for participating.
Hey, before you do that, okay. Sarv, did you see my response about the BNG?
I did see your response. Yes. So just to update everyone, sometime back, the AT&T Foundry did have a virtual BNG instead of a physical BNG outside the SEBA pod. You can think of it as a virtual component that runs in the compute nodes. And I asked Don what the status is. Was that code ever open sourced or not? Mainly because beyond what we have planned for SEBA in the next couple of months, at some point we want to start targeting bringing the BNG into the pod as well, right? And the idea behind bringing the BNG into the pod is probably try and do some of the things that Deutsche Telekom has done in their work, implement some of the BNG functionality like hierarchical QoS in the hardware. And so I wanted to see if, you certainly did the hierarchical QoS stuff in the vBNG, and I wanted to get a sense of it into what we can possibly do in the hardware going forward. I wasn't looking at it in terms of, well, let's release this, let's use it. Does that help, Don?
Yeah, I mean, we can, if you wanted to schedule, say, a half an hour, we could take you through what it took. Again, it's all shell scripts, just configuring Linux kernel, networking, etc. The queuing and RAID shape.
Oh yes, I would love to do that at some point and leverage that work and see how we can reproduce it in hardware.
Let you figure out where priorities are on that and just schedule it and we can show up.
Is that something we should do at the next meeting? Or is it more urgent than that?
No, I don't think it's very urgent. I think next meeting we have Deutsche Telekom's workflow. That's going to be a nice discussion as well. So we can schedule it down the road.
Okay, I'll leave it to Sarv and Don to figure out when that is going to happen.
Thanks.
Alrighty. If there's not anything else, I'm going to stop the recording. Thank you all. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.